Hi, this is Bob Serling. I'd like to welcome you to this free training on a completely different way to make a 6 to 7 figure income brokering joint ventures for your clients. Now, because this training is so different and so thorough, it runs about an hour, I decided to put it into a video format rather than a webinar. You see, the problem with a webinar is that you can't stop, you can't rewind, you can't repeat points that are important to you. It's even hard to take notes without losing your place. And also, sometimes the timing just isn't right and you can't attend. So by putting it into a video this way, it lets you take the training at your own pace, lets you stop, take notes, rewind, do whatever you want so you can absorb the material in a way that's best for you. So, sound good? All right, well then let's jump on over to the slides and get started with the training right now. Today we're going to be talking about an opportunity for you to make 6 to 7 figures every year by brokering joint ventures. Most importantly, I'm going to show you an entirely new, different, and much easier way to achieve this. So on today's webinar, we're going to do 6 things. Number 1, you'll see exactly how using the SOS rule of high profit joint ventures simplifies the JV brokering process dramatically. Number 2, how this simplification gives you 2 important benefits. Benefit number 1 is the ability to find and close high quality JV deals in just a couple of weeks instead of the 3 to 12 months that it normally takes using other methods. And benefit number 2 is a built-in dead simple accelerator technique that turns every JV deal you broker from a one-shot project into multiple projects that continue to get repeated every year, so your profits continue to grow and grow. Number 3, I'll take you through the entire system so you immediately get why this new method dramatically outperforms the old ways of brokering joint ventures. And number 4, we'll look at a number of real-world case studies of the results some of my previous students have produced with this system. And number 5, I'll lay out all the components and tools that you get in this program if you decide to enroll. And then 6, you'll have an opportunity to enroll in the program if you'd like as well. And you'll also get a way to ask me any questions that you'd like to. So let's start out with the current state of brokering joint ventures. Now, brokering JVs can be a powerful way to make 6 and 7 figure profits, and you do that with no cost and no risk on your part at all. But the biggest drawback of this is that JV deals are almost always time-consuming and difficult to make happen. For example, in the promotional materials for my previous program, you may have seen the case study of one of my students who made $828,000 on the second JV deal he brokered. But if you listen to the entire case study, it took him a full year of hard work and persistence to bring that deal together. And there were many times during that deal when it almost fell apart. And I'll show you the reasons why in just a minute. So the important part is that that's pretty typical with most joint venture deals, even smaller ones. You can usually expect it to take 3 to 6 months or more to put together larger deals using the conventional method of brokering joint ventures, and easily a month to 2 for smaller deals, and sometimes even more. So besides being time consuming, this can quickly get very frustrating. So I decided to do some research and see if I could develop a way to eliminate the stumbling blocks that cause conventional joint venture deals to be so time consuming, and to accelerate the entire process so you can find and close lucrative JV deals in just 2 to 3 weeks rather than the typical 3 to 6 months that it normally takes using the conventional method. So here's what I discovered. First, I'm sure you're familiar with the 80-20 rule, which shows that 80% of the profits your business generates are produced by just 20% of your marketing or 20% of your effort. But when it comes to joint ventures, This math is even more unevenly tilted because for joint ventures, 95% of all profits are produced by just one type of joint venture deal. And once you understand exactly how this extreme tilting works in your favor, you can use it to broker highly profitable joint venture deals far more quickly and easily. So let me show you exactly how and why brokering deals for this single type of joint venture dramatically outperforms all other ways to do it. First, there are at least 14 different ways to structure joint ventures. Now, some of them are a lot more difficult than others, and even though they can be extremely profitable, they're all very time-consuming. And that's because when you're dealing with two different companies, where each will promote the other's product, there are always all kinds of complications. You just can't help it. One major complication is that each company wants the other one to promote their product first, and it can literally take months to get an agreement on the order that it's going to go in. And so negotiating just this one point alone can be extremely challenging and time-consuming. Then there's the problem of when each side will promote the other side's product. Because the more successful your JV partners are, the more booked up their schedules are. So you can easily wait 3 to 6 months to get a promotion out, and sometimes even longer. However, the single most important element you have to deal with is the trust factor, or to put it more clearly, the lack of trust. You see, this lack of trust is the main reason why so many deals that look so promising get derailed or completely fall apart. Every step of the way, the companies that you're putting together don't know each other, and most of them probably don't know you. So it's extremely easy for either or both companies to get the jitters and decide to pull the plug on the deal at any time. Now, this is always based on fear rather than reality, but fear is a powerful force to overcome. So you constantly face the possibility of having your JV deals fall apart at every step in the process. Now, what I've just shown you here is the critical piece to removing all the difficulties from brokering JV deals. Now, I don't know if you caught it, but I'm going to lay it out for you in detail right now. Understanding this is what led me to discover the SOS solution that makes my new method of brokering JVs so powerful and so easy to use. So I'm going to repeat this critical point once more. Whenever you're dealing with two different companies that will each promote the other's product, there are always all kinds of complications, primarily because of a natural lack of trust. More importantly, eliminating these complications that comes from that lack of trust is what changes everything. And now I'm going to show you exactly how to do this, how to eliminate all those complications. So the way you do that is by using the SOS joint venture brokering system. Now this is an all-new method for brokering highly profitable joint ventures, and it's based on the proven principle that in any business area, the majority of your profits come from just a small fraction of what you do. For example, if your company sells 10 products, the majority of your sales will always come from just 2 or 3 of those products. If you run 10 different ads on Facebook, the majority of your response will be generated by just 2 or 3 of your ads, and so on. And that's true for every aspect of running your business. So this means that if you shift the focus of all your marketing to increasing just those couple of things that produce the greatest results, and you eliminate everything else, your marketing immediately becomes much more profitable, and it takes far less time and money to manage. So the driving factor in developing this new method of brokering joint ventures was to identify just the 2 or 3 most profitable aspects of joint ventures and focus the entire system on those things only while eliminating everything else. As a result, you're going to do a lot less work than you would with the old conventional method of brokering joint ventures. It'll take you a fraction of the time to land a great JV deal. You'll work with higher quality clients, and you'll make more money by actually doing less. Now, as I said, the SOS joint venture brokering system is really simple because I've removed all the complications. In fact, all it takes is 4 steps to do everything you need to both find and close highly profitable joint venture deals. So let's take a look at the system now, and you'll get a deeper understanding of exactly how this works. I'll start by listing all 4 steps of the system, and then I'll take you through each step in more detail. So step number 1 is the solution, and that's the SOS rule of high profit joint ventures, which I'll get to in just a minute. Step 2 is effective prospecting for ideal JV clients. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. And then step 3 is the SOS sales presentation, which is very different than any sales presentation you've ever seen, and I'll take you through that in detail. And step number 4 is the accelerator technique that converts every JV deal you do from a one-shot project into multiple projects that get repeated every year. So those are the 4 steps that make up the entire system, and just by looking at them, you can see that this system is extremely simple. I've intentionally designed it this way so you can realistically be brokering really lucrative joint venture deals in just a couple of weeks rather than the 3 to 6 months that it typically takes with the conventional method. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the details for each of the 4 steps. So step number 1 is the solution, and that's the SOS rule of high profit joint ventures. Now, as I've mentioned, for any business, just a small fraction of what you do produces the majority of your sales. And this is often called the 80-20 rule because roughly 2 out of 10 things that you do produce the majority of your results. However, as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to joint ventures, this math is even more radically tilted because there are at least, as I said earlier, 14 types of joint ventures, and many have multiple variations that are very complicated. Yet in my examination of what works best and what's less effective, only one form of joint venture substantially outperforms all others. So the actual math for joint ventures is that 95% of all your profits will come from working with just this one type of joint venture. And that's great news because it means that every aspect of finding and closing JV deals gets immensely easier. Plus, there's a second mathematical tilt that works in your favor with my proprietary process. And that is that 95% of your best JV deals come from working with just one type of client. So I hope you're getting the impact of all of this. As simple as it sounds, identifying this single type of JV deal plus the single type of client that produces the greatest results, it took me years of trial and error to do this. But once you understand the profound value of this, brokering highly profitable joint ventures shifts from being a complicated challenge to a simple, reasonable, and repeatable and totally enjoyable process. So let me give you a case study that demonstrates exactly how this is done, and this is a real-world example. So the first benefit of an SOS JV is that you only work with one type of joint venture. Now remember, every problem that derails joint ventures comes from one source only, and that's the friction that occurs between the list side client and the product side client due to a lack of trust. But there's a very simple and counterintuitive way to eliminate all these problems and all that friction with one swift action. And that action is to eliminate one of the sides, either the list side or the product side. So just as a definition, so you understand, the list side is the company that has a great list, and the product side is the company that has the product you want to sell to that list. And then you're going to flip it, and you're going to sell the list side's product to the product side's list. So, as I said, there's only one thing you want to do that's going to remove all that friction, and that is you have to get rid of one of the sides. So that means then that the only type of joint venture deal that you ever do is a list side joint venture. So in other words, you're only going to look for a client with a great list. You don't worry at all about the client with the product. And that's where the SOS comes from in the name. Because by simplifying all your deals to work only with the list side, it means that what you're now doing is what I call a simplified one-sided joint venture. There's only one side to it. So that's the first of our two benefits. And remember, by doing that, if you're working with just the list side, you don't have the friction anymore between the two sides. You don't have to worry about who mails when, how each side gets paid, whether or not one side's list is bigger than the others, because all of that is eliminated. And that brings us to the benefit number 2 of an SOS JV, and that is that you work with only one type of client. Oh, and it just spun up there. All right, so if you're brokering list side joint ventures, then the only type of client you ever want to work with is, I'll give you a second to think about it. Well, it's a client with a large productive list. Now, that may sound obvious, but here's the important point. It actually takes no more time to broker deals for companies with large lists than it does for companies with small lists. In fact, it almost always takes less time. That's because a company with a large list is more sophisticated about their marketing. They're more mature in their business life cycle, so they have more staff to manage things, and they're less chaotic, and they're always going to be, or nearly always going to be, easier to broker a JV deal for. Yet, when you do this, when you're working with companies with large lists, your profits are exponentially greater for less time and less effort. So, here are the details of that case study that will show you how both of these principles gets applied in the real world. So I'm currently working with a client who has a list of 47,000 paying customers. Every one of the people on this list has actually bought something from him. So that's a very large list. So right away, I've accomplished both requirements for a highly profitable joint venture deal. First of all, I'm working only with the list side. Second, my client obviously has a large and very productive list. Now, I'm brokering deals for this client where we'll sell other products to his list once every month. It doesn't take much to do that. That doesn't take much out of his schedule to do one promotion per month. Now, the majority of these promotions are for other companies' products, but occasionally we'll promote some of his own products as well. And my goal here, my own personal goal in terms of my earnings, is to earn an average of 25 cents in commission for every client on his list every month as my share. And that's a very reasonable goal. I don't want to set my goal so high that it's impossible to reach. But what this means is if I do that, if I make 25 cents for every name on his list, that means I'm making $11,750 per month in commissions. And if we do a mailing every month, that means that I do $141,000 annually. And don't forget, that's with just a single client. So it doesn't take very many clients like this to make serious money as a joint venture broker. Plus, it takes very little to line up all the products or services that I'll ever need to sell to his list. All I have to do is go to Amazon or Google and search for the best-selling products in categories that are similar to what my client sells. So for example, let's say you have a client who sells a new type of diaper for babies. Well, it's very easy to find dozens of other products that parents of newborns also need. And when you approach the companies that sell those other products and you say to them, I have a client with a list of 47,000 customers who bought their diapers. They'd like to sell your bottle warmer to their customers. Are you interested? I can tell you. What do you think their answer is going to be? Well, quite frankly, you're never going to find an easier way to close a deal. And that's one of the massive benefits that a one-sided joint venture deal gives you. You're not dealing with both sides. You're not trying to talk the product side into doing a reciprocal mailing. All you want them to do is let your list side client who has the big list sell their product to their customers. So it makes it really easy. Now, step 2 is effective prospecting for ideal joint venture clients. Now that you know what the ideal JV client and the only type of client you ever want to work with is a company with a large list, then let's take a look at how you find this type of client on a consistent, systematic basis. And there are essentially 3 effective prospecting methods for doing this that I teach you in the system. So prospecting method number 1 is to leverage your existing relationships with businesses. Now, for most people who are just starting out, this is the method that I recommend using first. If you know business owners who have large lists, then you're miles ahead of the game. And this is how some of my previous students have brokered highly profitable deals right away, even within a week of starting the program, even though they had no previous experience. For example, one of my students was a business attorney who had been in practice for many years and was making 7 figures with his law practice. Now, he had an active client roster of hundreds of businesses. Now, not all of these businesses had lists that were large enough to meet the qualifications we're looking for, but enough of them did to make brokering joint ventures very lucrative for this student. All he did was approach those clients who he knew had the right list sizes, and using my presentation materials, he offered to make their businesses much more profitable by engineering joint venture deals for them. And because of the trust that he already had with these clients, he put together a number of large deals right away. Now, I don't know the exact numbers that he produced, what his earnings were, but within 6 months, he'd made so much money doing this and had so many other JV deals lined up that he closed his law practice entirely. He then devoted his time exclusively to brokering joint ventures. And for his next step, he used a complex technique called a constellation joint venture that puts many joint venture partners together in a single deal. Now, he actually had about 60 companies all participating in this single deal. And that entire project took 8 weeks from start to finish, and it was a grueling 8 weeks. It was labor intensive. He told me he barely got 3 hours of sleep each night, because that's a lot of companies to coordinate that are all in one deal. But it was well worth it, because he ended up making $1.4 million in profit for that 8-week period. So prospecting method number 2 is called warm prospecting with email. Now, this method is a bit less effective than the first method, but only because it takes a little more time and a little effort to do properly. However, it costs nothing to use, and it can work extremely well. So if you don't already have strong connections with qualified prospects, then you want to use this method. Essentially, it consists of sending a very compelling email that uses specific information from the prospect's website and points out ways to substantially increase their profits that they generate with their website. By taking the time to research this information, your email is warm in the sense that it's extremely personal. It's not just a mass-mailed piece of generic copy that businesses get dozens of every day. And when prospects see the depth of the specific details you've included about their website, you immediately set yourself apart from all the generic pitches they normally receive. And that means that a number of those prospects then respond by replying to your email or by calling you. Now, many of my students have used this prospecting method alone very successfully to create 6- and 7-figure joint venture brokering businesses. But again, while this method does work well, because you don't already have a relationship with these prospects, it means that you have to do a little bit more prospecting, and that can take more time than the first method. So method number 3 is to build your list by giving away a compelling bait piece. Now, this is the most effective method of generating a consistent stream of highly qualified prospects for your JV brokering business. And right now, it's the only form of prospecting that I personally use anymore, and that's because the list I built from this method is big enough and responsive enough to provide all the quality leads I need. So I recommend that everyone should begin to use this right from the start. However, it does take some time and effort to build a quality list. List building is always going to be a mildly time-consuming effort. So it usually isn't something that's going to generate a lot of business for you right out of the starting gate. But the process itself is simple. First, you're going to create a compelling bait piece, a report or a video or a white paper that's packed with really useful content. Now, the measuring stick you want to use is that the free content you're giving away should make people say, wow, that was so great, I easily would have paid for it. You then give this bait piece away in exchange for someone opting into your list. Now, there are a lot of little details that go into this. I don't have time to cover them all here, but that's a simple overview of how the process works, and it works really well. There's nothing particularly difficult about it, and anyone can do this as long as you recognize that it's going to take you anywhere from 3 to 12 months to build a quality list that's large enough to replace completely those other 2 methods. Now, step number 3 in my 4-step process is the SOS sales presentation. Now, this sales presentation is built on a single core principle, and that is that no one likes being sold to. And I mean no one. You don't like being sold to, I don't like being sold to, and I can guarantee you your prospects for joint venture deals don't like being sold to. Now, conventional sales presentations have their manipulative techniques like multiple trial closes and false urgency and all these other gimmicks. They're just no fun for your prospect to listen to. And they're no fun for you to present that way. So why do so many sales training scripts use that process? Well, to be honest with you, I have no idea why, especially because it doesn't work very well, and it actually drives away a lot of the deals that you could be making. Now, I replace all of that high-pressure, gimmicky sales crap with a simple presentation that's based on a diagnostic tool that allows your prospect to calculate the amount of increased profits they'll gain based on real numbers that they provide, not on some manufactured, overblown projection that I've come up with. And here's another little secret, and a very important one. I never refer to what we're doing as joint ventures. Instead, I use the diagnostic tool to reveal untapped additional profits in the client's list and their products and their marketing pieces. And then the way you capitalize on all those is with joint ventures. So why don't I refer to these deals as joint ventures when I'm starting out? Because the whole concept of joint ventures is misunderstood. And often the first reaction, whether it's stated out loud or it's silent, is no way. There are just too many ways other companies can cheat me out of my fair share. I'm not going to do a joint venture. So I eliminate those perceptions by only talking about what the clients are most interested in, and that's increasing their profits with no cost and no risk to them. So once this diagnostic session is completed, which takes about 15 minutes, closing the deal is a simple matter of asking the client if they'd like to try implementing the JV deals on their own or if they'd like my help. So remember, the diagnostic tool guides them through determining how much money they stand to make using their own actual sales figures that they provide, not something that you make up. So basically, if you say to a client, well, look, in doing this, we've discovered that you stand to make about $140,000 additional profit each year doing this. And then you simply ask them, would you like to do this on your own or would you like my help? And a high percentage of the time, they're going to choose to enlist my help or your help if you're a JV broker. And the reason for that is if they could do all these things on their own, they'd be doing them anyway. And it's always easier to have an experienced professional help them. Okay, so step 4, and this is the final step in the 4-step system, is the accelerator technique for converting every JV deal from a one-shot project into multiple projects that get repeated every year. Now this final step gives you a powerful advantage that you simply don't get from other forms of joint ventures or other joint venture systems. Because you're working only with the list side clients, you avoid all the complications, all the misunderstandings, and all the significant problems that normally occur when you're pairing 2 or more businesses together in reciprocal deals. So once a deal is complete, since you're dealing only with that side, there's never going to be a negative reaction from your client, or rarely. I mean, occasionally a mistake can happen, but it's very rare that that occurs. So instead, what you get is a very satisfied reaction from a client who's just gained additional profits with no cost and no risk and just a minimal amount of effort. All they had to do was send out an email. So it's very easy to take that exact same deal or a similar deal that you just did and run it multiple times every year. And here's why. You see, any offer that you send out this month, well, 2-3 months from now, that's going to appeal to different people. More people have joined your client's list. Other people who weren't ready to buy a couple months ago are now ready to buy. People's needs change, the timing change, the money they have available to spend changes. So the exact same deal without any changes, if you run that just 2 or 3 months later, it's going to get nearly the same results time after time after time. And this is the accelerator that turns every one-shot project into multiple high-profit projects that can be run year after year. So my goal, my own goal for each client, and what I will teach you how to do in the system, is to have just 4 great deals that we offer to their customers. And we rotate through those 4 deals 3 times each per year. And this really simplifies things. Now those deals then are repeated over and over, and some go on for many years, and they're repeated until the profits they produce begins to fade. Then you find another product to replace the fading product in your rotation of the 4 products. And this approach makes your life infinitely easier than chasing down new projects every month for every client. And it locks in reliable profits month after month, both for your client and for you. So that's how the entire SOS joint venture brokering system works. And now from just what I've shared with you here today, you could try to do all of this on your own and you'd have some measure of success. But quite honestly, it would take you a lot of time and a lot of trial and a lot of error. And even then, you still might not get everything in the system right. So the other option you have is that you can duplicate my entire process and start closing lucrative joint venture deals in the shortest time possible by becoming a member of my SOS Joint Venture Brokering Program. So let me show you what's included in this unique training and coaching program. The SOS Joint Venture Brokering Program is a 6-week program consisting of in-depth training, coaching, and personal support designed to have you successfully closing JV deals in the shortest time possible. Now, during this program, which I'll conduct personally, I'll share everything I do to produce a 6 to 7 figure yearly income with joint ventures. You'll be able to avoid the serious and costly errors you saw earlier that most people make with the conventional approach to joint ventures. You'll be able to focus only on those few tasks that get the best results as quickly as possible. And you'll get personalized training, advice, and coaching that will dramatically accelerate your success. So here's an overview of how all of this is delivered. First of all, there's 6 weeks of comprehensive training. Every other Tuesday, you'll get in-depth training materials on all 4 steps in the complete system. Now you can see the start date of the program right below this video. Now we'll start with the basics, and then we're going to rapidly advance to the intermediate and advanced techniques. The purpose of this is to get you out in the real world brokering JV deals as quickly as possible. Because this is accelerated training accompanied by a step-by-step blueprint for successful JV brokering, it's really quite possible for you to land your first deal within just a few weeks, like as in some of the examples I showed you. Now, next you're going to have live coaching calls every other week with me personally. On alternating Tuesdays, you'll get live coaching and support, and again, all of this is provided by me personally. You don't get my assistant, you don't get a trainee. It's all with me, you, and the other group members. Now, these group coaching calls will focus primarily on implementation, with the key goal, again, of helping you get as many JV deals done as quickly as you possibly can. So you're also going to get recordings of all the coaching calls. All calls will be recorded, and that means you can listen to them as often as you like. You can listen online, or you can download the audios of the calls. And all recordings will be posted to a members-only training site within 48 hours of a call being completed, but usually I get them up there within 24 hours. Next, you get the SOS JV Brokers Marketing Toolkit. Now, this is a complete collection of every marketing piece you'll need to broker your JV deals. You'll get initial contact pieces, you'll get call scripts, emails, sales presentation scripts, the SOS JV diagnostic tool I talked about, and you get all the legal agreements you need and more. Now, it's all here ready to go in done for you format, and all these documents are delivered in Word format, so all you have to do is open a document, cut and paste, and you're ready to go. Now, if you were to hire a good copywriter and an attorney, both of them, to create a complete collection of marketing and legal documents like this for you, it would easily exceed $35,000 to do this. But you get them all in cut and paste format as an advantage of being a member of this unique program. You'll also get direct access to me. In addition to our coaching calls, you'll receive a private email address just for the members of this program. You can use this anytime you need to get in touch with me on a critical issue. Now, however, there's one thing. This access is meant to be used only in critical situations, like, for example, in the event you have an issue that needs immediate attention. So I do ask that you use this judiciously and you don't abuse it. You don't just drop me a line to say, hey, the weather's great in Colorado today. But your membership in this program is the start of a true working relationship, and as you can see, with this direct ability to contact me, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to support you in being successful. So then I've got a number of bonuses because, of course, what program would be a valid program without bonuses, right? So the first bonus is real-life case studies of best practices that you can model for your own JV brokering business. Now, I'm a firm believer that one of the best ways to improve your success rate is by modeling the success of others rather than having to reinvent the wheel. So this program will include case studies of some of my own most successful JV deals, deals of many of my own or my other most successful students, as well as deals of the members of this group as they report back with their results. And each case study will include step-by-step instructions for ethically modeling these successful techniques so that you can use in your own JV brokering deals. Now, bonus number 2 is the SOS JV Brokering Quick Start Guide. And while the material in the program is specifically designed to cut your learning curve to the bare minimum, anytime you start something new, it can be difficult to keep everything in order. But that problem is solved for you with this short, handy guide. It lays out the SOS JV brokering process in the exact step-by-step order you should use it in. So you never have to worry, or you never have to dig through a mountain of material to make sure you've got everything right. All you have to do is check the list that's included in this guide, and you'll always be right on track. Okay, so that's how the program works. Now let's take a quick tour of the agenda for all of the 6 weeks materials. So week number 1 is an overview of the SOS JV brokering process, and we'll also cover effective prospecting. Now in this week's training, that means then we're covering steps 1 and step 2 of the 4-step system. So you're going to have half the system down just in the first week. Now, step 1, again, is the solution, the SOS rule of high profit joint ventures. I'm going to cover exactly how this rule works, and most importantly, how it applies to every business. So you can virtually approach any type of business you want to broker JV deals for. Now, you're going to get thorough training on the single form of JV structure to use in order to find and close JV deals in weeks rather than the 3 to 6 months that it typically takes with a conventional approach to JVs, and many of those deals that you've seen blow up in your face. You're going to get a crystal clear definition and a detailed profile of the one type of client that generates 95% of the most profitable joint ventures, and it's the only type of client that I ever work with and that I recommend you ever work with. Then I'll cover a number of real-world case studies that you can model to find and close these types of joint ventures and these types of clients in the shortest time possible. Plus, you'll get every marketing document you need for finding and closing your JV deals. Then step 2, which is covered in this first week, is effective prospecting for your ideal JV clients. You'll receive in-depth training on all 3 of the methods of effective prospecting for highly qualified JV clients. So prospecting method number 1 is leveraging your existing relationships with other businesses. You'll get my relationship matrix form that makes it easy to create a long list of the existing relationships you already have. And even people who don't think they have any existing relationships are surprised to see how well this tool produces a long list of quality connections. Then you get the exact emails to use for contacting these prospects and getting them to eagerly agree to hear about your services. And prospecting method number 2 is warm prospecting with email. You'll discover exactly how to find and contact prospects in a way that immediately converts them from cold calls to warm prospects. The difference is that warm prospects contact you and are pre-qualified, and they're fully prepared to talk about how you can help them instead of you cold calling and trying to force feed something to someone. And when you're working with this type of prospecting, It does require a little bit more time and effort than the first method that we talked about. However, at the same time, it makes it possible for anyone to prospect effectively and find great joint venture clients. Now, in addition to the process itself, you're also going to get all of the contact emails and the follow-up script, and they're all done for you and ready to go. All you have to do is cut and paste them from the Word documents, plug them in, and you're ready. So prospecting method number 3 is to build your list by giving away a compelling bait piece. Now, this is my absolute favorite way to prospect, and it's the primary method that I've personally used to build a multi-million-dollar business. Now, you'll receive in-depth training on every aspect of leveraging this method to build your own highly qualified and highly responsive prospect list. Now, I'll show you how to quickly create the 2 types of bait pieces that have the most value to your prospects, and how to use these bait pieces to attract pre-qualified prospects. And I'll then show you what traffic sources work best with this method, and most of them, literally 90% of them, are free. Plus, you're going to get copies of my own successful bait pieces that you can model, and all the marketing documents you need to implement this strategy, and much more. So week 2 is a live coaching call. And during this call, we're going to cover all your questions and answers on the SJVB brokering system and effective prospecting. So we'll get together on a live coaching call. This is a 60-minute call, and I'll answer any and every question you have on the training materials that you received the previous week. So week 3, you get the training materials for the SOS sales presentation. This week's training covers the 3rd step of the system, and that's the sales presentation. You're going to receive thorough training on the exact script, and you'll get the SOS diagnostic tool that you use to close a high percentage of JV deals without any pressure, without any hype, and no manipulative sales tactics at all. The entire script is designed to guide your client through the diagnostic process and have them determine how much your services would be worth to them. And they do this by using the real numbers from their business, not numbers that you make up or big hyped up projections you come up with. So they're always going to be accurate. Now, this is done again using the real numbers from their own business, and they provide those numbers. So in this way, the client then makes an informed decision based on their own real gains, not on some questionable projections that you made up and gave them. The entire process is natural, it's comfortable, and it gets you far better results than conventional sales presentations do. And of course, you get the complete script and the diagnostic tool with all the instructions you need to use it. And that's not many instructions because it's really easy to use. So week 4 then is another live coaching call, and this one's on the SOS sales presentation. And this is our 2nd live coaching call where we'll get together for 60 minutes and I'll answer all your questions on the training materials that you received the previous week. Week 5 is working with your JV clients and implementation techniques, and then we'll cover the SOS JV accelerator technique. So step 4 in the system, as you remember, is the accelerator technique for converting every JV deal you do from a one-shot project into multiple projects that get repeated year after year. Now, this final step gives you a powerful advantage that you simply don't get from other forms of joint ventures or other joint venture systems. You'll get thorough training in how to use my special accelerator technique to substantially increase the value of every JV deal you land. Most conventional JV deals are one-time only. You run the project, you collect your commission, and then it's over. However, because The SJVB brokering system eliminates all the negative aspects of conventional joint ventures. Your clients are actually eager to do more business with you. And the easiest and most profitable way to do this is to repeat the exact same project that you've already done, and you repeat it at reasonable intervals. So you'll get everything you need to propose and close these deals, along with advice and tips for establishing the best mailing schedules for your clients. Now, this accelerator technique makes your life infinitely easier than chasing down new projects every month for every client. And it locks in reliable profits month after month, both for your client and for you. This component alone will pay you far more than the cost of the program, and it's my proprietary technique that you can only get with this system. Next, you're going to get implementation tips, strategies, and the SOS system checklist. Now that we've covered the entire system, I'll give you a number of practical tips for keeping your projects on schedule, tracking your commissions, and probably most importantly, making sure that you get paid in full and paid on time. You'll also receive a simple SOS system checklist that lays out the tasks for each step all in one place for easy reference. Then finally, we close week 6 with another live coaching call, and this one is on the SOS-JV Accelerator technique. And for this final call, we'll get together again for 60 minutes, and I'll answer every question you have on the training materials you received the previous week on the Accelerator technique. Now, let's deal with a very important item, and this is the burning question. So the one question that I'm sure is on your mind is, how much money can I realistically expect to make every year by brokering joint ventures? Well, the fact is, there's no way I can give you a fixed number. But what I can do is show you a range of what some of my previous students have earned, along with an important point to consider. So example 1 is of a student who made $8,700 for 20 minutes worth of work brokering a very simple JV, the type of JV I'll show you in the program. But the really interesting part of this is that he did this the second day he was in bed recovering from serious back surgery, and as he puts it, doped up on Vicodin. So all he did was he called an existing client and proposed a joint venture. The client agreed. He put them together with a company he knew, had the mailing out. The whole thing took 20 minutes, and he made $8,700 for it. And that's an example of a very small deal that can be done quickly and easily. So example 2, another student made 6 figures his first year, and he now makes 7 figures every year. So that's great. But the most unique part of his story is that when he first started brokering joint ventures, when he took my program about 10 years ago, he was just 19 years old. And he made around $320,000 that first year. And he's continued to grow that year after year to where he now makes 7 figures every year. So example number 3 is the first deal for another student that made him $2,000 for just 2 hours of work. Well, that's not too bad. That's $1,000 an hour. Now, this student intentionally wanted to start small because he was totally new to brokering joint ventures, and he was a little nervous about it. So he did a quick deal that only took a total of 2 hours of his time from start to finish. And he made $2,000 for putting together that joint venture and running it for his client. I then showed him how to get $3,000 for that same 2 hours, which is obviously a $1,000 increase, and that would have been a 33% increase with no additional work whatsoever. So now he would have made $1,500 per hour instead of $1,000 per hour. And most importantly, I also showed him how he can repeat this exact same process that he used to make the $2,000 with dozens of other clients. Now, example number 4 is of another student who reports on how effective the accelerator technique has been for him. Now, because he had many existing connections to begin with, he was a copywriter and he had a lot of copywriting clients, and those are the clients he approached. And because of these connections, he landed his first deal within a few weeks of enrolling in the program. And that's from when he enrolled, not from when the program ended. So it was literally within 2 weeks. Then he landed 5 or 6 more deals within another few weeks. And these were all by leveraging the existing connections he already had. Plus, he then used the accelerator technique with most of these clients who were eager to do that. And within 6 months, one of those deals paid him over $250,000, which was more than he was making in his copywriting business. And in fact, he sent me a picture of him standing in front, or actually next to, a new red Lexus, and he told me it was the first new car he had ever bought in his life. Now, as you know, when you use the accelerator technique, most of this is done with very little additional effort because you've already run that campaign. You've already set the whole thing up. So essentially all you're going to do is remail that same campaign. So generating really high numbers in your profits is relatively easy when you use this accelerator technique. So those are just a few examples of the results my students have shared with me. However, this is critical to understand. There are also many students who have made little or nothing at all. Which brings us to that important point to consider that I mentioned a minute ago. As you can see, there's a wide range of results that various students have produced. And I can't tell you why this happens, since they're all using the exact same system and have been through the exact same training. Now, my gut instinct is that it has to do with how committed they are to applying what they learn and to taking action to implement the system. But I want to make sure that you have as complete and realistic a view as possible so you can make a fully informed decision. Now, if what I've just shown you here in this training sounds like something you'd be interested in, here's how to enroll in the program. The enrollment fee for the SOS Joint Venture Brokering Program is $5,750. If you're familiar with my previous joint venture brokering programs, then you know that the least I've ever charged for those was $8,750. And for many of them, I charged $12,500. But if we use that $7,150 figure, you're getting this program at a full $3,000 discount. Now, because this system is much easier to teach, and I made it much simpler than previous systems and much more effective at the same time, that means I can lower the price to you and provide you with even better training and better tools at the same time. So I'm more than happy to be able to offer this substantial $3,000 discount. However, because I'm providing all of the training and all the coaching and support personally, I have to limit the program enrollment to no more than 12 people, because that's as many as I can give the full attention I want to in order for you to be as successful as possible. Now, I've set, as I just said, I've set that limit of just 12 so I can be absolutely sure I have the time that I need to support both you and the other members of the program. So to enroll now and lock in one of these 12 spots at this deeply discounted price, there are 2 payment options available. The first option is to enroll with a single payment. Now, you get the lowest price possible for this program by making a single payment of $5,750. Now, you can choose this option by clicking the link below this video that says enroll with a single payment. You'll see that link right below the video. Just click there and you can enroll with a single payment. Now the second option is split payments. If you'd like to spread your payments over 3 months, well, you can do that by making 3 payments of $2,100 each. So that gives you a lot more time to pay for the program. Your first payment of $2,100 will be billed today, and that's followed by 2 more payments of $2,100 each, and they're automatically billed to your credit card every 30 days, and that comes to a total of $6,300. You can choose this option by clicking the link below this video that says enroll with 3 monthly payments. Just look down there, click it, and you'll be ready to go. So all the program fees are non-refundable. However, if something comes up and you can't participate, you can apply the full fee to a future presentation of this program. Also, as I mentioned earlier, I'm happy to answer any questions you have at all about this program. And you can I'll answer those for you either by email if they're simple, or on a Skype call with you if they're a little more complicated. Just send your questions to me by emailing me at sosjv@profitalchemy.com, and then I'll get back to you either with the answers to your questions or to set up and schedule a Skype call with you. So again, email your questions to me at sosjv@profitalchemy.com. I'll be happy to answer any question you might have. So that's a wrap, and I just want to remind you that to make sure you get one of the 12 available spots, go ahead and click one of the links below this video to enroll right now. Now in the past, all my JV programs have sold out, and they sold out reasonably quickly. So if you're serious about making 6 to 7 figures per year brokering JV deals, it makes good sense to lock in one of those 12 spots now. So thanks for viewing this training. I hope you learned a lot. I hope it will help you in your own business, and I hope to meet you in person in the program.